Hey, thank you so much for pushing play and allowing me a few moments of your time to share some thoughts that I've had about this interesting moment in time that we are in. Yes, so the other night, real quick, and I digress, my throat was hurting a little bit, y'all. And I'm going to be very honest with my faith walking, Bible toting, believing self. Y'all, I started feeling my throat and stuff, honey. Ooh, child, I did. I started like, clearing it and stuff, just trying to make sure that, everything was everything, right? And I was careful not to just kind of allow myself to really embrace that perhaps this was, you know what? But I will not lie, it crossed my mind. And so I watched my symptoms the remainder of the day, like just trying to make sure that I never started feeling aches and whatever, just really trying to be proactive and mindful. And so I was telling my sister about that the other day, and we were kind of laughing because she said that she and her son like had to remind themselves as well that they have allergies, right? And so they began to feel their normal everyday March springtimey kind of symptoms, but because of what's happening right now, it was easy to kind of get fearful about that. And I was joking with another brother friend of mine about the same thing, like this COVID-19 and coronavirus in a variety of ways have just kind of infiltrated our thoughts, infiltrated our lives. And so I think I just want to start there and acknowledge that. I want to say that for me, while the whole throat thing was really just temporary, was gone within a matter of hours, I do recognize that there are physical stressors that are very real for many people. Not only has this impacted their access to certain treatments or caused it to be a bit more difficult for them, if you're already on dialysis, if you're already battling cancer, if you already were going to some type of therapy or whatever that is, that this virus perhaps has made that more difficult for you. And even in a deeper layer, as I was praying with a dear friend of mine the other day, I was just reminded that yes, and for some believers, their family members have been impacted or they have been impacted to the point of being infected, or even for some, they've experienced the death of their loved ones. And so, even as a Christian who is believing that it won't come near me or my dwelling place, and I'm praying over my family, I still want to be mindful in the things that I say that there are some believers who have just as much faith, if not more, but they have been impacted. And that is because things happen to the just and the unjust, and it is no indictment against their faith, right? For those who may have had more mental stressors during this time, I want to acknowledge you. Now, not again to fuel anything or to be anti faith, but simply to acknowledge you because I know that for that temporary moment when I wasn't quite sure of what was happening in my body, I could feel the worry. And for me, that moment right there was very real. So, for those of you who regularly then deal with mental stressors, whether that's depression, or anxiety or just panic attacks, I want to acknowledge you during this time and encourage you to remember that journeying and navigating through that is not in opposition to your faith. It is just the thing that you fight through. And may God's grace be sufficient, even the more for you during this time. May His peace that surpasses all understanding be even more so yours during this time. For those who have had to deal with financial stressors, who in a matter of days or weeks watch your entire financial resource thing just try to just kind of fall apart, yeah, to you, I acknowledge you. And it is not to in any ways imply that perhaps you were always negligent or something. Sometimes people have just come off of one hardship after another. I know people who journeyed through handling medical bills for multiple families at the same time. So for them, it was not a matter of not having good stewardship. It's just that life dealt them several things, one behind the other. And so when this happened, then it's just one more thing. And so whether that's your case or something else, I just want to acknowledge you. And I don't want to give a flippant kind of cliche answer like, well, just don't worry about it because perhaps you are. Perhaps you are concerned about how you will pay your rent, how you will continue to have resources to feed your children, how you will pay for the necessary medications or whatever your family may be facing. And I remind each of us who perhaps for whom that has happened that God is aware that we have concerns and He's okay with that. That's why He says, cast your concerns, cast your cares upon me. You don't have to play like they don't exist to prove that you are a person of faith. God can handle you having cares about something, and He stands with arms stretched wide, saying, chunk them over here, cast it over here. And if practically you have to do that every single day because the first is right around the corner or the last paycheck was deposited, be okay with knowing that God is okay with you acknowledging that to Him. For those who I was thinking just the other day who have emotional stressors, and we can exercise our Christian compassion to not compare those stressors one against the other. For some, for seniors and moms of seniors, their concern, while that may appear trivial to others, that's very real. As somebody who served in the school district for years, I'm very clear about how heartbroken or devastated some seniors may be. And yes, we do. We do help them to journey to a better place of posture and perspective. But it is okay to acknowledge that that may be a bit difficult. Some of them have been looking forward to these homecomings and proms and walking across the stage for years. So it's okay to give them credence and to give those moms credence for those who for them they were breaking generational curses and they were the first in their families to walk across these stages at high schools and collegiate levels. Yeah, it's okay to say I'm sorry, I'm sorry, like really, that you're not being able to have those moments. Weddings, baby showers, vacations that you had planned for, been saving for, it's okay to really acknowledge that yes, while I am grateful for life and health and strength and glad that I'm still here, yeah, kind of disappointed about such and such. Y'all, God, He's able to hear you say that and not write you off as unappreciative or ingracious. So I just want to acknowledge those areas. And before I journey into this latter part of what I want to say, and even for those who, again, as believers or not, who've lost people during this time, and you even have a delay in being able to do the funerals or homegoing celebrations, however your family would do that, commiserate that. We want to acknowledge you and just say, yeah, hmm, we're living in different times and it has impacted each of us differently. Just wanted to acknowledge that before going into just a quick excerpt from the word where we're able to examine our faith siblings, the children of Israel, like He cut for them, God's people, like the ones He rooted for, the ones He was wanting to see make it. Yeah, we're able to kind of get some lessons from that. Because in Jeremiah 6, God cautions the prophets, the leaders, the people who have influence, the influencers. He cautions them against crying out, peace, peace, when there really was no peace. Like He said to them, you have lightly healed my people. You have given them soothing words with no substance. He said that you have gave them superficial treatment in another version. It says that you've led them astray from really hearing the voice of what I am attempting to say. So as believers, we have to get that because there are parts in the Bible where we love to shout it out like that late in the midnight hour when He turns it around, that 11:59 breakthrough. We want those quick deliverances, but if we study in truth, there are passages in the Bible where certainly God does that, but then there are other parts in the Bible where God allows His people to not just know Him as deliverer, but to also know Him as sustainer. And so if we were to study the entirety of some of these passages, we would get that God does not always render a quick deliverance. And in those seasons, in those times, if we glean lessons from what he taught our faith siblings in the days of old, then I think we'll be the better for it. So Jeremiah 29 is actually one of those passages that we love to quote. Jeremiah 29 and 11. I'm sure many of you can say it with me, where he tells the people that he's going to give them a future and a hope and bring them to an expected end, because he knows the thoughts and the plans that he has for them. But if we were to read the scriptures right above that verse and right beneath it, we would find something very interesting. So I'm just going to do that for us real quickly. And I chose this particular passage because it is an example where our faith siblings who wanted God to deliver them like yesterday, he actually gives them another word. And so he says to them in Jeremiah 29 and 11 for them to go ahead, let me just summarize, for them to go ahead and take their wives, to take their spouses, to beget, to have their sons and daughters. And then he says, take your sons and daughters and find for them wives. And then so that you all can increase in this space. He then tells them to go ahead and build you some homes and plant you some gardens and govern your day. And then pray for the peace of the city where I have sent you. Even though you don't want to be in that space, pray for them. He says, because it's going to be about 70 years, round about 70 years. And then I'm going to bring you out. But before we come to the close of that 70 years, you're going to seek me. You're going to pray to me. You're going to call out for me. You're going to find me. You're going to know me. And I'm going to deliver you. And I'm going to bring you to the place that I promised. I'm going to show you my good word in your lives. But it's going to be a minute. And so I was thinking about that and how we're just praying. And I promise you, I'm praying with the rest of you. I want to see it pass over. I want to see this thing be done. And God can. And perhaps God will. But in the meantime, while I'm sitting here, I thought it wisdom to go ahead and look at some other faith siblings who are also sitting there and see what lessons can I learn. So, if we were just to lift quick tips, tangible tips for application from that passage, we would notice first thing, God told them to build homes. He told them, like literally, to go ahead, fix your dwelling places, figure out where you're going to rest your head, where you're going to live for a while, how you're going to stay. What's a quick application in 2020 that we can get from build your houses? It's simply this, like literally, that's a principle of stewardship. The places that God have entrusted into to us, whether that's our homes, our apartments, we're roommates, whatever that looks like, we can go ahead and be good stewards of that. We can do those projects that we've been putting off. We can literally like clean our garages, clean our closets, clean under the beds, get organized. Now, I'm not trying to minimize, I'm simply saying that's a stewardship principle. And it's often one of the things that goes overlooked and ignored in the chaos and the busyness of our regular schedules. But during this time of having to be put for a moment, that's a principle that he gave the saints of old way back when. He said, take care, establish your dwelling places. So for many of us, we literally can think about the things that have needed to long been addressed around our dwelling places, and we can take care of it. Number two, he said for them to go ahead and take wives and have your children. Now that becomes pretty obvious in application for 2020. He's addressing families and family units, putting in that quality time there, bonding, doing your connections. So we all know in 2020, when we get real busy, sometimes we can go a long time without attending to one another. But during this slowdown time, how about it? How about it for that quality family time? For us, a practical thing that our siblings are doing, and there are eight of us, and trust me, then I know what it looks like to be juggling a whole lot of folks and being busy. But today, we're pausing to get on a virtual call together. Somebody is even all out of state, other cities, but these moments allow us to do that. So, for you all as well, I'm sure some of you are doing it already, but really embracing this quality time. And not just for the people who are directly in your dwelling place, but even beyond. That's the advantage that we have in 2020. We have apps and means of reaching out to folk who we've long needed to follow up with. And oftentimes, regrettably, we all have those intent tos until it's too late to. We're doing these moments, we can settle down for a minute and get that connecting piece done. Number three, he said for them to plant gardens. Now, I won't go off on my health health kick and make this about vegetation and plants at this time, but I do know that he was telling them to put seed in the ground. He was telling them to make the most of what they have. Like, you're going to have to go ahead and plant you some crops and get ready to sustain yourself for a while. So the application in 2020, yeah, seed in the ground. Now, maybe you do desire to plant like a physical garden, but seed can be, of course, our finances. We can now examine things that we're actually going without, that we thought we could never live without, all of those things that we can't have quick access to just go and buy. Like, when life returns to some semblance of what it used to be, we can choose not to go back to those moments, and we can instead utilize our finances to put seed in the ground, whether that's in our savings, whether that's in our stocks, our mutual funds, our retirement plans, our businesses. We put seed in the ground, y'all. And then even seed as it relates to our time. A lot of things we probably were once very busy just running, going to and fro, trying to do, and now we can't. We're able to put our time into the ground as seed in different places, our businesses, our books, our projects, our folk that we love dearly. Like, really being more cautious and conscious of where we're putting our seed. So that's a quick application. Plant a garden back then, put seed in the ground today. Number four, and then I'll just have one more. He tells them to kind of get their routine about life, to govern their day, to govern their lives, because you're going to be here. So for us, it is that. It's not just letting these days just waste and go by, and we're just kind of like, okay, it'll be over tomorrow. But really, if we were going to be here for a while, what systems and structures should we all be putting into place to make sure that we're still making the most of our days, that we're governing our lives? And perhaps it will help us to then explore what are some of these things that, even when life does what it does and we come out of this, that we still should apply and put into place. And my last one that I perhaps love the most, he said, pray. Pray for your city, y'all. I like that he didn't just address the immediate dwelling and your immediate families. He said, pray for your city, pray for your surroundings, right? And so for us, I thought, yeah, because when we think about it, how much more would our lives be impacted? Like, if your next door neighbor was infected, and then the neighbor across the street, right? So if we begin to not just pray for ourselves, but even our neighbors and the people across the street and our city, and then, as we know, our healthcare workers and our first responders, even leaning more prayer to that. But what if God's desired end, right? That we love our neighbors as ourselves is really being accomplished in all of that. What if God's desired end that we operate in unity, that we as humanity are more concerned about the well being of others and the things that unite us than we are about the things that divide us? See, God is always up to something bigger than what we can see. And while I am clear that because His word says that sickness and disease are not from Him, I'm clear though that we're able to see Him and hear Him and learn more about Him even in the midst of it. And here's this word that is my settling in all of this: all things are working together for my good. So whether it's an overnight deliverance or we're here for a while, it's going to work out for our good, y'all. Those are my thoughts on this whole coronavirus and COVID 19. Continued prayers for all of us and each of us, and continue well wishes and compassion for however this is impacting each of our lives in a variety of ways. As always, I honor the greatness in you. Welcome to share and subscribe. And there's a host of material that's already uploaded on the DGL Dr. Gina Lynn platform, both on the website with blogs, on the YouTube channel with a host of videos that you can avail yourselves to. And then I look forward in the upcoming, soon pending next quarter of the year to having some new material for you. In the meantime, stay safe, obey the laws of the land, be kind. All right, y'all take care. I honor the greatness in you. Bye now.